Hi everyone, it's Astra. I'm just recovering from my Giardia infection. I've been spending most of the day in my bed, kind of itchy, fatigued. I have muscle weakness. Not really any gastrointestinal symptoms. That's because I usually find that it comes and it goes. But besides that, I want you to ask yourself this, right? Over the past 10 to 20 years, sorry, over the past 10 to 20 years, right? What has the life expectancy in developed countries done? It's kind of starting to reach a plateau. Sorry, I have a hard time pronouncing it. Right? And it's due to things like we haven't found a cure for cancer, or at least we haven't developed, or we haven't released, you see all these experimental treatments for cancer. They haven't been released. Heart disease is still a major problem, things of that sort. But there are reasons for why. It's that we're kind of reaching limits in terms of like medical technology, things of that sort. And all of the kind of treatable conditions and diseases um, that we have, all the kind of treatable conditions, we've already developed medicines and strategies to basically combat. That's why the life expectancy at first went quite up, and then now it's hitting a plateau. And so I want to ask you all this, right? We focus so much on trying to increase our life expectancy from 75 to 80, right? Or from 78 to 82. But I want you to think about something. If you've watched those YouTube videos before, you'll see that our brains perceive different periods of our lives not the same, right? So the first couple of years of our childhood, when we're actually aware, from like 4 years old and beyond, that's the longest stretch of time in our lives. Like the longest feeling stretch of time in our lives. And then it just kind of speeds up, and it's like, I don't know, 50% of your life is already experienced by 9. At least that's what your brain perceives. I don't know if I would say 9, but by late childhood, you've already experienced way more than 15 or 16 years of your life perceptually, like as a percentage, right? Because 16 is not even a quarter of your life if life expectancy is 80. So because the cure for cancer hasn't been found, and we don't really know when it will be found, when it will be discovered. We haven't released these experimental treatments. There's still a lot of diseases out there that we don't really have answers for, like Alzheimer's or ALS or things of the sort that are going to, take people. What if the answer to this kind of plateau that we're experiencing is not trying our absolute best to develop all. I mean, obviously that's important. I'm not saying that we should stop that research, right, into these horrible diseases, right? But what if one of the new frontiers is chronopsychology? What do I mean by this? What if we were to, because the brain is the most like the organ that's most easily be able to be manipulated, right? Psychology is. You can um, manipulate the brain in so many different ways with psychology. What if the answer is to try to find ways and try to, because chronopsychology is a developed field, what if we were to try to extend our lifetimes, not literally, not physically, but perceptually, right? So what if we were able to stretch that 80-year time period, especially the later kind of 75% of your life, way out to where it doesn't feel like you're living like 100%. It feels like you're living 125% or 150%. You're still living 80 years, right? Regardless of whether or not, you you manipulate time to feel slower, like physically, and real life processes, everyday kind of things that we do rely on physical time more than perceived time, so to speak. But what if we were to kind of try to develop the field of chronopsychology, kind of make it so that in a way our life expectancy is a lot longer, because it is an incredibly underdeveloped field that I think could be a frontier for humanity if it goes well. I'm not saying that it will work. I don't know much about it myself. I don't know how the brain is, how like you're able to kind of manipulate the brain into thinking that way. But it's just an idea, right? If we're running into physical problems with physically extending our lifespans because of medical technology, incurable diseases, also things like the population just is eating a lot of, not healthy stuff, and it leads to heart disease. One of the things that we can do, at least for the first two problems, is this. Because the fact of the matter is that if you extend life expectancy from 80 to 85, if it only makes up like 1 or 2% of your total perceived lifespan, or how many other years, when physically as a proportion 5 years is, that's well over 5% of your life. Is it really as powerful as being able to manipulate the mind into thinking that your life from 20 years old to 40 years old is not, minimal? It's actually much larger than that. It's much longer than that. That's all I'm trying to say. I know I'm not feeling 100% right now, and so obviously I'm not going to have, the best kind of speech, so to speak, like the best kind of top quality content. But this kind of helps me get through the sickness a little bit. So I just felt like sharing that, right? That maybe the next frontier is not trying to expand physical life. It's to try to expand perceived life. Because, and after all, I would rather live, honestly, like if my goal were longevity, I would rather live a life at 50 years, that felt like 90, than to live a life where I live 80 years and it feels like, I don't know, like way less than that, so to speak. I know that sounds crazy, but it's kind of like heat index, right? It's like, okay, it's 95 degrees temperature out, but it feels like 110, right? And so when you go outside, are you really thinking it's 95? Of course not. Your body also doesn't react to it feeling like it's 95, right? It's reacting to as if it feels 110. Your brain is reacting as if it feels 110. That's all I'm basically saying. The same kind of concept applies. Anyways, thank you all. Goodbye.